Hi, it's Mark Postles here, and today I just want to talk about the importance of making sure that you identify where your practice is at right now and apply the right strategies. And those are going to be the strategies that address your stage of practice development, where it is now. Because often we fall into a trap of, as the saying goes, like we overestimate what we can do in a month and underestimate what we can do in a year or a decade or even a lifetime. And often with our practice, we're not necessarily looking at a strategic approach to this. So the strategy having to do with your professional and practice development has to be staged and implemented relative to where you're actually at right now. So in other words, if you apply a strategy that applies to a practice that's way above or way below where you're at right now, it may not be the right fit. So, we often try and implement advanced procedures and techniques and processes that we've hacked off YouTube, or we hear it at seminars. I mean, wow, that's a really cool idea. And we take it home, we try and implement it, and it doesn't work. And the truth is that we haven't got the foundational structure in place to be able to sustain that new thing that would work amazingly in someone else's practice. So it's about mastering the basic ones. It's about mastering those basic elements of practice and building on them. So this then if we succumb to this, and it's such a trap because we see these really neat things being shown on social media and talked about it at masterminds and different seminars, and it's like, wow, yeah, this be fantastic, but it leads to building our practice on someone else's practice, and that practice could be very, very different from yours. So this is about then being aware of that and having a guide for it. So this then prevents a shaky foundation. And when we become aware of it, then we avoid the frustrations that come when things keep falling apart because of the fact that you don't have a good foundation uh, underneath what you're now adding to. So that's a challenge here, and I want to dive into this one in a little bit more detail and show you a model which we find really helps with understanding the dynamics of this, and maybe give you a map forward in terms of this. And so this is what we call the practice life cycle. And a life cycle is, as the word explains, it's like there are certain things that happen along the life's journey. And the life of the practice is no different to the life of a human being. For example, as a baby, we learn to lie on our back, and then we learn to lie on our stomach, and then we learn to roll from left to right and right to left, and then we learn to go onto all fours, and then we learn to stand up and toddle, and then we learn to walk and then run and then skip and jump and climb trees and do all the things we do as a human being all the way throughout our life. And there's a pattern to that. There's a predictable structure to that. We develop neurology that will support that along the way. And if we tried to give the complicated technique of climbing a tree to a 3-day-old baby, obviously we wouldn't succeed. And so no matter how intelligent that particular communicator is of that activity, or how many resources that baby's given, it wouldn't be able to do it. So we see that the same goes for a practice, that when we're at a certain stage of our practice, we are ready for what's next, the next best thing for that practice, rather than what someone else has done at maybe a higher level. So just to give a graphic on this, so you can get a better appreciation of the model of the stages of our development as a practice, we look firstly at, obviously, where you're now and where you're going. And should always be a reference. In other words, where are we now? What stage of our development are we in? And where do we want to ascend to? Where do we want to go to? And what's going to be the next logical thing, the next thing that's going to move the dial for us? So within that then, and don't let this overwhelm you here in terms of its complexity, but this is just a part of the design that we use within Quest on taking out our clients through the development of their practices. So we have a stage of practice that we call survive. And that is that the right frontal brain needs to be enacted to know where we're going, what we're doing, what our outcomes are. So this is looking into the future. And so we would be delving into our purpose. We'll be looking at what our belief structures are that both support and hinder us. We look at our outcomes and where we want to take our people and our practice members, what our overall outcomes are for doing what we do, and of course, what's the mission that we're on? What is it that we want to shift and change in the world? So those are critical foundational elements, and without those criteria, then we can't make sense of the world to the same degree as we can when we have them really clearly defined. So this then allows us to take on the next stage of our development, which is getting organisation and structure into our practice, because this is the elements of nurture. And this allows us then to have predictability and certainty and clarity in our practice. It allows us to then have control, and we can have an operational base. And this creates stability in the practice. It allows us to then see the big picture that we've envisaged in the survive area when we dreamed about how it could be. We lay on the beach, we thought about these things, and now we're starting to see it come into reality, and we can anchor it into reality. And so we can have strategies then for taking our practice and our practice members to the next level. And that's when, and this is the really unfortunate part, is that a lot of chiropractors find themselves getting really immersed in the engagement side of it. The delivery aspect, the adjustment, and the critical coalface relationships with our practice members, but they're not strong enough in the survive. They're not strong enough in the areas of purpose and beliefs and outcomes, and they don't have any organisation. So they do this stuff at a quadrant 3 level, which we get taught within our undergraduate programs to be really good at, and of course the science which supports that, but we don't have the foundational background for it. So it's about going back and visiting these elements in the quadrant 1 part that allow for the fusion of the stability. And so the stability then becomes relevant to the philosophy, because if your philosophy is undefined, then you're just going to have a system that's all based on systematization. It's a mechanical thing. It's not relative to the outcome or the values that you're portraying. So this is where we can go and pick up all sorts of bits of information and put it into organisation, and grab someone else's organisational manual and look at other control techniques and tricks and tactics and operational bases. But unless we own them and they resonate with our purpose, then it becomes problematic. And so then that challenges the deliver aspect. So if we're clear on all that stuff, then we can design delivery that is appropriate for our values and our structure and the ideal people that we're catering to, which is everybody, but within inside everybody is this ideal essence that we want to bring out. That's a whole topic for another time. And then of course it gives us our tactics, and we accumulate tactics and we accumulate our excellence, and our state of excellence is always there, and we're developing ourselves technique-wise, communication-wise, relationship-wise, and engagement-wise. And that then allows us to start to scale the business, because we have a sustainable product then. And over time, this allows for the philosophy to be infused through the science and the organisation, through the delivery, and then into scale. So we can then get other people to do it with us and do it for us. So we create leverage. And then we can create a governance perspective. So we're looking at things from a bigger perspective, bigger awareness, and then that is empowering of everybody. Everybody in the whole practice is empowered, including the practice members, or especially the practice members, and ultimately that leaves a legacy. So that's what scale's about. So these are the dynamics here that if we jump in and we do we're a bit shaky on our quadrant 1 part, we're not quite sure of our beliefs, for example, and someone says, oh, you've got to do this tactic down here, this will make your practice grow, that's a mismatch, because it's got to be we've got to find that our beliefs are equal to what we're doing down here, because this is actually our ethical expression. So we're doing something unethical because we haven't defined our belief, or because we haven't found it to be equal with our purpose, then it creates a disconnect. So this then is problematic for chiropractic practices, in that we're doing things that are not necessarily true to us. And so we're selling out on ourselves in this context. And often it's just because we haven't visited this section up here to define who we are and what we're about, and where we're going and what we're going to do, because then that would just lead this flow to continue like this. And this is why we call this the innate model, because it's constantly feeding on itself. It's not a one-time through and it's all done. We're scaling every single second of the day. So that's the name of the game with this. Make sure that you've got your practice designed so that you are doing this automatically. And that then allows for your people to have a far better experience. It's a more congruent experience. And so, instead of building the practice in dribs and drabs, then consider identifying where in the practice lifestyle you are and where you want to go. And this strategy will make it more obvious as to which is the right thing for you, your team, and your practice members. So make sure that you've got this thinking in place, and then check it off. This can be a pre and post thing. You could do this every year and say, okay, where's the practice in now? Where's our main weak spot? Where are our strengths? And this will change. It will change from maybe month to month. So and definitely over time, you'll see these shifts taking place as your practice gathers more legs and becomes more of a machine in which it creates a legacy with or without you. So being aware of the practice lifestyle, it'll give you the right thing to focus on so that you can get the best results, both where your practice is right now and where you're just going into. So it's not about grabbing everything and having all the information, just those things that are going to move the needle. So if you want to have a chat about this, and I think we could support you to develop your practice in this context, then just click below, and love to have a chat. Cheers.